Today I'll break down the exact winning strategy that we use to find scalable Facebook and Instagram ads for our D2C clients. And I will walk you through, not only share the mental models we use, but also the tactics so we can find them quickly with not a lot of budget invested, but with a very high chance of succeeding. And I break this down in 6 steps so we can hop right in. And it's really about getting the theory behind it, and I will also have a video where I break down the exact setup of the testing structure, and this video is the accompanying video for the theory, because then you know what principles to apply so it's actually getting a success, because there are many fallacies and I want you to be aware of them so you don't fall short and you don't mess it up and you don't waste any money. And I would say we hop right in. So the basis of all of this is our ABO testing campaign. We call this the builder campaign, and it is essentially one ABO campaign. So again, the difference between ABO and CBO, it is that CBO, the campaign budget optimization, has the budget on the campaign level, whereas the ABO has the budget on the ad set level. And we like to use these ABO campaigns because it creates these isolated tests. You can very thoroughly test different kind of sets. And the main idea we have behind that is that we create ads around an angle, around a concept. Let's say you have a common theme. As an example, you might have a product that is handcrafted in Italy. It might also be sustainable, and it might be probably not affordable, but maybe it's also super stylish right now, trending in any way like that. Then you have multiple different angles that you can play and that you can run. For example, one angle, one theme is that it's handcrafted in Italy. And what you can do is that you create ads around it. You can create image ads, video ads that are about this. Like maybe your image ad has in the headline handcrafted or something like that, a very beautiful headline. Then you have a video creative showing the production process and having copy that is on the handcrafted aspects of the product. And then you have these like 3 to 4 ads or 3 to 5 ads as we do them right here. And this allows you to group these 3 to 5 ads around this common theme together and then test it in one ad set in this one ABO campaign. And now you see how these tests stack up. We have then one ad set on the handcrafted angle. We have one on a sustainability angle. We might have one on stylish kind of trendy angle. And you can do all of those. And then you test them through. And this is then a really beautiful example of a testing campaign because it's isolated tests, you know what's working, you can turn off what's not. And that's the difference to the CBO campaign. Because in a CBO campaign you can also turn it off, but when you have one CBO campaign with like 5 ad sets, you will need more budget to actually test it. And this is what we want to avoid. We want to be quick, we want to be swift, we want to be really like mindful about the budget we spend. And that's why we like to use the ABOs. And for another reason I will get to back in I think step 5 or 6. Now let's talk about the test duration. And I see this often. So here there are really like 2 pitfalls. First off, there are the people who test it for a few hours and then they say, well, it's working or it's not working. Or they tell me, hey, I had this ad and it was doing great the first day and then it just tanked and it never did well. But on day 1 it has like a 3 ROAS, it was perfect. Then I tell them, listen, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's actually not. The first few hours of your creatives, they kind of enter a discounted bidding phase. And that means the first few hours of the lifetime of this ad, it's actually rewarded with better reach. It is kind of the business model that Facebook invented for that, to also get the ad a bit more traction in the beginning, get you this euphoria of like seeing some initial conversions. And you will notice this often when you start something and in the beginning it does really well and then it falls down and it just completely crashes, then it's because of that. So keep that in mind. Then the second thing is, and I see people doing, is they use tiny budgets. They use like $10 a day for a product that costs $150. That is ridiculous. Don't do that. You won't be able to scale this. Even if it's a product for 30 and you start the budget at 10, how do you want to scale that? You get like a handful of conversions over a long time and the ads are usually never scalable. They might work well at the small budget, but it's never working really at a larger budget. So keep that in mind. When you have strong ads, you can put a lot of budget behind. I always see these strong ads really as you can basically do anything with them. You can be really rough on them. You can put like a ton of budget behind them and they will still work. And this is the main goal of this. You want to find strong creatives that not only scale at a small $15 a day budget, but can actually also scale at a $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 a day budget. And that is what you need to build up. So I would recommend a good testing budget in the beginning. Let's do like 75 or like 50 to 200 depending on the AOV, the average order value that you have. Let's say you have an average order value of 150 to 200. I would recommend a budget of like either like 3 times the CPA or like maybe 100 or 150. If you have a product that sells for 40 to 50, then I would recommend also a testing budget of 50 to 70, something like this. Ideally, you get like 3 purchases in testing a day at least. And then the next thing is, and it's really important, is that you test it for enough time. 1-2 days are not enough to find out if it's winning or not. And the reason is, it can have a good day, it can have a bad day. The performance stabilizes more once it has a lot of spend, once it has been gaining some experience in the ad account, basically, and in the algorithm. So you want to keep it for like 4 to 7 days and you want it to spend 500. If you find something that spent 500 and it ran for like a couple of days, maybe a week, and it's still doing great, there's a high chance you found a winner. And this is really exciting then. And then you have not like $10 a day budget and 3 purchases and a good ROAS, but it's essentially a couple of purchases, many purchases. You have some good KPIs on it and it's still working well, even though it might fluctuating a bit throughout the days. And you want to find such creatives. The third step is about identifying the winners. How do you identify the winners? And it's really crucial that you don't look at like CPC first or thumbs up first. There are a lot of people who like this creative strategy part of it, and I truly think it is important to optimize and iterate. But in the beginning, you should be looking at the really hard metrics, conversion metrics, which are CPA or ROAS. Then you go further, you take a look at how is the CPC? Is it scalable? Is it like a CPC that is way too high? What is the CPM like? And then what are the soft KPIs like the scroll stop, the thumb stop, or the hold rate? But it needs to be aligned with the CPA and the ROAS. I would like for you to look at the CPA because the ROAS can even fluctuate a bit more depending on over and under attribution. I would recommend strongly looking at CPA, and ideally you have an attribution tool too, or you have been running your campaigns, which we'll also share in the setup video of the testing video, that you run them on click attribution. And I don't want to go into vast detail right here, but it is a difference between click attribution and view attribution, which I will explain in a different video. Now, let's talk about the 4th step. And this is really about scaling the campaign. Now you've found some winners, you're excited, you want to scale them. What are you going to do? You need to increase, like the goal is to increase your spend and increase the sales volume while keeping a similar profitability or better profitability. Now what I would do is I recommend an ASC or CBO campaign for scaling, and you want to take the post IDs. We've talked about the post IDs many times, and what they essentially are is, it's like the address of your ad. It's like where a postal employee would deliver your mail, but the mail is actually likes and comments and all of the social proof on the ads. With this post ID, with your address of this ad, you can use it and reuse it in many different campaigns. And that is essential because the social proof makes your ads cheaper and more affordable, and the user experience is better. It's also generating more trust. So I would highly recommend that you use the post IDs. Now, over the last couple of weeks, and especially in 2024, we went a bit away from the ASCs, because if you don't control them correctly, they can overspend on existing customers or on the warm funnel. People who are in the cross funnel, like who maybe come from another channel. It might be difficult because these ASCs sometimes tend to spend more on these people. But we want to have really like strong prospecting. We want to have cold hard audiences. We want to be really prospecting. That's why we often do these CBOs. And this is the Trinity CBO, we call it that way. And it's essentially a broad ad set. It's a lookalike audience and it's an interest stack. So you can, again, the CBO and ABO. CBO is the budget on the campaign level. You have 3 ad sets below that. It's a broad, a lookalike stack. We like to do like 10% purchase lookalikes and an interest stack around the product. And this is a great basis to give the algorithm some guidance, but also leave it up to him and to actually find the ideal audience. And then you can turn off maybe 1 or 2 ad sets and you have all of these best ads in there, and it will usually crush. Like they tend to do really well. These CBO trinities, we like to use them in almost any accounts, especially as an additional scaling campaign or one is the main scaling campaign, and they do really well. So I would definitely give them a shot. Even for younger accounts, they crush because they have this lookalike and interest stack kind of guidance in there as well. Especially for younger accounts, they can do really well. Now let's talk about the most exciting part, scaling. And you don't want to scale like a pussy, like just to double the budget and then it's it. Like who cares if you scale from 100 to 200? You need to be scaling as much as you can. And one thing you need to keep in mind is that sometimes these opportunity windows, they open up. You feel an ad is crushing. You feel momentum in the market, then you need to be scaling as much as you can. Media buyers, great media buyers. I always say the difference between a good and a great media buyer is the opportunity cost. The revenue he's not realizing because he doesn't see the opportunity. And this is what I want to show you with this. So once you found a winning ad, you need to be nurturing it a bit in the beginning, cultivating it a bit. And once it really catches some fire, once it gains momentum, then you need to be scaling it. And I would recommend in the beginning, work with the 20% rule. It might not do a lot in the beginning. If you go from 200 to 240, it doesn't do a lot. But it is a great safe way to actually sustainably scale up, because what can happen is you have a great ad at $100 a day in spend, you increase it to $700 a day and it just flops. It doesn't work anymore. Sometimes these ads in the beginning, they need to have a bit of a slow and gradual scale up. And you might think that 20% isn't a lot, but if you do that consistently for like every 1 to 2 days, every day or like every second day, then you can really quickly scale up, and you would be surprised like how fast you can go from a few $100s a day in spend to a few $1,000s a day in spend, and with basically the same performance, because this is what it's about. So if you have the time, I would recommend that you use the 20% rule to scale it up. And now what do you scale up? So we talked about this scaling campaign, obviously scale that. But then if we take a look at the 6th step, it is also crucial, and this is now the reason why we love these ABO campaigns, it is crucial that you scale your tests. And this means, again, if we remind what an ABO looks like, is that you have one campaign and there are many ad sets in there, many isolated tests. Now you see, let's say test 1 and 3 are working insanely well. With an ABO campaign, you can only increase the overall budget, and once new tests are coming in, the performance might go down or anything like that. But with these ABOs, they're really swift. Like you can really scale them up quickly, and this is amazing. Like let's say you have one ABO ad set at $200 a day, you can easily get this testing ad set where you had this initial test in there to like a couple grand a day in spend, just by increasing that as well with the 20% rule. And this is really amazing, because then you have the best performing creative in the scaling campaign with the post ID, but you also keep the original ad in the testing ad where it was originally tested. And this is amazing. You can scale it up and it works well. Like the chance of it keep continuing to perform is really, really high. And I would recommend that you do that. It's an amazing way of scaling. It is very safe, it's very sustainable. Still, you can scale up quickly. And overall, your account just works beautifully well because you invest the money where it's spent best. And this is crucial. Now, I will leave you with this. Never turn off a successful test. People ask me if they take the best performing ad and put it into a scaling campaign, if they should turn off the successful test. No, you should never do that. Scale successful tests. Introduce the best performing winners into the scaling campaign. Scale both together and you will soar. This will work well, and I'm so excited to see you scale. So I will leave it at that. It's a short video today, but I hope it was insightful. Now, if you're talking about rapid increases in budget, I would recommend you check out my scaling video, which I've already done on this channel. Here are 4 scaling methods that we use to quickly scale. Like we've taken an account from, I think, $2,000 or $3,000 a day to $40,000 a day in spend in, I think, 7 or 8 days. So you see, sometimes scaling can also be quick, and then obviously you can't use the 20% rule, you need to be using other methods. And I will show you this in the other video. But apart from that, I think that's it. Thanks so much for watching, thanks so much for the positive feedback so far, and if you have any comments or suggestions for future videos, please leave them down below in the comments, as well as other questions that you might have. And with that, I'll leave it at that. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon.